Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, FormulaE, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here's your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Hey, welcome into it. April already.
Yeah, it is.
It's this year has flown by so far.
Unreal.
Because guess what? This is Talladega month, boys and girls.
14 days.
But can you believe it's April?
Not yet, no.
It's
it hasn't
40
really hit.
degrees.
John, my sinuses and nasal cavities can't believe
Stay
it.
right here.
Yeah, that's true.
The cloud of death known as pollen has been evil in Calhoun County.
Between the pollen and Mother Nature being drunk, just, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the yellow layer of stuff on my car.
Yes.
That. Yeah.
The 1-inch thick layer of yellow stuff on my car.
Wash it off. It's back in 10 minutes.
I know.
That's
or
right.
get some rain and it comes back in 5 seconds. Hey, welcome into the show. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. And hey, welcome into April, like we said. And we've got a busy weekend from last weekend and actually a pretty cool weekend this weekend of racing, which has already begun. So let's go ahead and get into it.
It has.
Two Joe Gibbs racing cars began the race in front last week. At the end, it was the same two Joe Gibbs cars that were battling it out for the win. Took until the final lap before John Hunter Nemechek and Ty Gibbs got it figured out. Gibbs claims the win. Nemechek led, actually, as the white flag was shown, but in turns 1 and 2, Gibbs was, he bumped Nemechek. Let me repeat that for 19-year-old Ty Gibbs. Gibbs bumped Nemechek, moving him up a lane down the backstretch, got side-by-side, took the lead going into turn 3 for the win. In his post-race interview, and after last night, this is especially important.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the definition of hypocritical.
Gibbs said, quote, "I definitely deserve one back, but we're racing for wins, and they're hard to come by, so you have to take it."
I'm going to repeat that.
Remember those words. I definitely deserve one back, but we're racing for wins, and they're hard to come by, so you have to take it. Now, Nemechek, he was moonlighting. He's a points driver in the truck series. He was told about Gibbs's comment. He retorted, "Him and I'll settle it one day. I don't want to say too much, get myself in trouble. Just got drove through. He didn't even try and make the corner there, but racers never forget." That's for sure. Trailing Gibbs and Nemechek was another guy whose name you need to remember when it comes to last night's action, Sam Mayer. Mayer actually claimed the first $100,000 dash for cash bonus. A.J. Allmendinger, Riley Earps, Daniel Hemrick, Josh Berry, Brandon Brown, Ryan Sieg, Parker Retzlaff make up the top 10. The four that went into last night vying for the second $100,000 bonus, Ty Gibbs, Sam Mayer, A.J. Allmendinger, and Riley Earps. Again, Nemechek not running for points in the series. We'll deal with points after last night's race.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, Cup Series, right? Kind of the same questions that we had last week, truth be told.
Yeah.
Were we going to get another 2022 first-time winner? And would we get another winner who wasn't older than 29 years old? Short way of answering those questions in order is yes and actually no. Yes, we got our 7th different winner in 7 2022 races, but it was one of the old guard who actually claimed it this time, despite two 20-somethings in the case of Ryan Blaney and William Byron leading most of the laps, over half of the 400 as it turns out. But leading the final lap, as we all know, is what really counts. With 46 to go, Chris Gabehart called his driver Denny Hamlin onto pit road for 4 fresh Goodyears. It was also about the same time Rodney Childers made the same call for Kevin Harvick. Those two begin a torrid pace of, number 1, unlapping themselves, and number 2, passing cars left and right and wholesale. And with 5 laps to go, first Hamlin got by William Byron, who was on 76-lap-old tires by that point in time. And from there, it was a question of whether it was going to be Hamlin or Harvick. Harvick ended up tangling with some lap traffic just a bit too much. Hamlin claims his win. He was asked post-race whether veteran drivers had an advantage of Richmond. Hamlin replied, "It's tough to really draw a parallel to that when you have so many laps at a track like this that's so technical. Even though it doesn't look technical, it is. Usually with track knowledge, it does matter at this track." How much credit as a driver do you put into that?
100,000%.
Yeah, there you go. Hamlin wins. Harvick second. William Byron fades to third. Martin Truex Jr. fourth. And Kyle Larson fifth. So 3 of the top 5 considered the old guard.
Yeah.
Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon make up the top 10. 7 races in 2022, 7 winners. They are in seeding order at this time for the playoffs. William Byron, Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Larson, Austin Cindric, and then Hamlin. It's so weird to think of Hamlin as the 7th seed out of 7 winners. But that's the kind of start that 11 car has had to the year. In on points at this time, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Eric Almirola, Tyler Reddick, and Daniel Suarez. It leaves some pretty well-known names on the outside looking in. Those include Austin Dillon, Kurt Busch, Bubba Wallace, and Cole Custer. But again, long way to go. We got to get through 26 races in the regular season.
Yeah.
A lot can change in that time.
Backtracking on what Hamlin was talking about.
Yeah.
Outside of that little joint that sets off exit 168 on I-20 that I've ran substantial amount of laps at on iRacing Simulator. Richmond is my next favorite track on there.
Okay.
I'll say that openly.
Okay.
Logging as many laps as I've logged there.
Yeah.
He's right about the technicality of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you and I went up there and we had the chance, seeing something on television, seeing it in person, they're 2 entirely different things. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Bristol or Richmond or Martinsville or Talladega or Daytona. Mm-hmm. Because when you and I got there, and I've said this for a long time. It goes way back into the 1990s when I kind of got reinterested in NASCAR. I was interested in NASCAR as a kid, kind of faded away, late 80s into the 90s.
Right.
Late 90s started to get back into it, mid to late 90s, really. Mm-hmm. And I've always just enjoyed short track racing, but for some reason, Richmond was always that track that just kind of spoke to me.
Yeah.
Everyone has that track that says, this one's the one, right? Mm-hmm. Richmond was always that one when it came to especially short tracks.
Yeah.
And then we got the chance back in 2019 to go in person, and we stood there and we just took in the scenery once we got settled in the PA booth up there. And the first thing that hit me was that I'm looking at the track and I'm going, man, the banking actually seems steeper in person than it does when you're watching it on television.
I thought the same thing, because when we got there on Friday morning after I had a really late flight through the loveliest city in America known as Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Hint the sarcasm. The one thing that I thought to be able to soak it all in was that little catwalk they had in between the booths upstairs.
Right.
Just standing there and you're going, and you're just looking, you're going, man. And then after the race, when we go to the infield and we're looking at everything, we're going, hold up here.
Yeah. Vastly different than what you see on television. And it made me number one, like the track even more. And number two, it gave me a heck of a lot more respect for the drivers who have been able to do what they've done.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So, I don't disagree with Denny Hamlin, but I wanted the driver's take on it because it's a very, very technical track once you start to really get to looking at it.
Yeah.
It was a very cool thing. Let's go out to Las Vegas. NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series getting back into action last weekend, running 4 wide nationals out in Vegas. I got to admit, 4 wide, it's fun, still hard to get used to.
Yeah, it's making me want to take a trip up I-85 to exit 49 in North Carolina.
Watch those Z-Max 4 wide nationals.
Better known as Bruton Smith Boulevard, where Z-Max Dragway sits.
There you go. Finals of Top Fuel featuring 4 pretty well-known names. And for about the first time this year, we finally talking about Steve Torrence in the finals, along with Brittany Force, Tony Schumacher, Antron Browns. Now, Torrence quickest off the light, but by the 60-foot mark, it was Brittany Force, third quickest off the light out in front. She ended up rolling onto the win with a pass timed out at 3.718 seconds, 338 flat miles per hour. That's her first win in Vegas. Steve Torrence crossing the finish line second, Tony Schumacher third, and finally Antron Brown. Funny car came down to a quartet. Ron Capps, Robert Hight, Matt Hagan, Alexis DeJoria. It was Hight quickest off the line, but Hagan out front by the 60 and 330-foot marks. And then Capps powers by. He gets the win, 3.914 elapsed time, 331.20 miles per hour. Hagan second, Hight and DeJoria third and fourth. Pro Stock Car, the only other Camping World Drag Racing Series division that ran last weekend, Final Four in this case, Dallas Glenn, get this four set, Dallas Glenn, Christian Quadra, Erica Enders, and Chris McGaha. Names that we don't talk about a whole lot. Quadra jumps out with an almost perfect reaction time of .005.
Ooh.
You can't get much better than that.
You cannot.
Enders is almost as quick, .017, and she's actually leading at the 60-foot mark. She claims the win, 6.668 elapsed time, 206.32 miles per hour. Quadra second, McGaha third. Glenn, who launched, and then the car failed, ended up with a DNF. With his second-place finish in Vegas, Steve Torrance, in a familiar place, Top Fuel Points lead. Where have we heard that before? Let me think. For the past 4+ years. 4 up on Brittany Force, 7 ahead of Mike Salinas. Bad weekend for Mike Salinas. Justin Ashley, 34 down and in 5th, 75 back, Clay Milliken. So a lot of changes could happen here. Yep. Matt Hagan leads Funny Car by a slim 9 points over Robert Hight. 40 ahead of Ron Capps. Cruz Pedregon, 170, 177 back John Force. So actually kind of a strange top 3 close and then big gap. Aaron Stanfield with a slim 3-point lead in Pro Stock Car over Erica Enders, and then you drop all the way to 77 back being Dallas Glenn, Kyle Koretsky 78 behind, and Mason McGaha's trailing by 103. Mm-hmm. That brings us to racing for this weekend. Begins Thursday, Martinsville, Camping World Truck Series, running the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 200. It was a moonlighter in Victory Lane.
Not that guy.
Thing is, not the one you might have been thinking of. Yeah, Kyle Busch was running, and yeah, we had him penciled in like we always do, but we had to erase that pencil and go grab William Byron.
Yeah.
William Byron, Cup Series driver for Hendrick Motorsports, moonlighting in the Spire Motorsports number 7 truck entry. Yeah, they got one. He grabs the win. His first win in the Truck Series, going all the way back to when he was actually full-time in the series. That's 2016. Johnny Sauter, more on him in a bit. He was runner-up. Then Kyle Busch. 3rd place for Kyle Busch in a truck.
He was never in play the whole night.
Not really, no.
Never
couldn't
was.
get a handle on it. John Hunter Nemechek, Ben Rhodes fill out the top 5. Rest of your top 10, Chandler Smith, Matt Crafton, Grant Enfinger, Zane Smith, Tyler Ankrum. No new winners. Zane Smith got 2 wins. He is your points leader. Chandler Smith also has a win. They're the only 2 drivers locked into the playoffs at this time. 10 drivers will make the Truck Series playoffs. The other 8 that are currently in on points: Ben Rhodes, Stuart Friesen, John Hunter Nemechek, Christian Eckes, Tanner Gray, Ty Majeski, Matt Crafton, and Tyler Ankrum. Some well-known names from the Truck Series on the outside looking in. Names like Derek Kraus, rookie last year, Carson Hocevar, Grant Enfinger, Matt DiBenedetto. They're all on the outside looking in.
They are.
And then we get to the Xfinity Series running last night, getting in the Call 811 Before You Dig 250, powered by Call811.com, where not only did we get a race, but we had a quasi-boxing match going on.
We had a fight.
Yes, we did. Let's get to the race first and get a quick details on that, Matt.
Yeah, the quick details on the race. It's if you want to see what happened, all I'm going to say is go find your videos on social media or go watch replays. You know, that'll tell you, because it was so stinking much on the last lap that it's really hard to describe. So your winner last night was Brandon Jones, not Ty Gibbs.
No,
Brandon
it
Jones.
wasn't. Ty Gibbs was in the running at the end, but a little bit of extracurricular activity as they tried to go 3 wide.
3 wide.
So let's explain that part a little bit, because this is a setup for the post-race fight.
On restart number 2, in overtime, after Sam Mayer misses a shift, A.J. Allmendinger picks the rear tires up off the ground, turns him into Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson wrecks the field, probably about a 15-car pileup. Track cleans up, goes to restart. Leaders take the white flag. Brandon Jones is racing Ty Gibbs as clean as you could possibly race it.
Sure.
They're giving each other room. They're racing each other hard. Good, hard, clean race. Gibbs misses turn 3. Gibbs washes up track. Here comes Sam Mayer and Landon Castle. Landon Castle and Sam Mayer are side by side. Landon Castle jumps curb. Sam Mayer in the middle knocks Sam Mayer into Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs gets looser, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Falls back to position number 8. Gets his proverbial underwear in a wad. Let's call it that. And it tries to pick a fight, even though it was not Sam Mayer's fault. It was, if you ask me, it's personally lays on the little bit of the shoulders of Landon Castle, because Landon Castle jumps the curb, knocks Mayer into Gibbs. Gibbs gets mad, so forth. But here's your top 10 finishing order. Brandon Jones taking the win. Landon Castle getting his career best in NASCAR ever at a P2.
We've been talking about this. We were waiting for this because this is the best equipment Landon Castle's had pretty much his entire career.
I said it in the offseason.
Yeah.
It's just not if, but when.
Because he's a good driver.
Oh, yeah.
He's just been in, let's face it, subpar equipment. Now he's in colleague racing equipment. And we've talked about colleague racing over the past few years and how good they are in Xfinity competition. And quite frankly, they haven't really skipped a beat going up into the Cup Series this year.
Yeah.
And putting Landon Castle in a car that is a top-level car like Cowlick puts out there, yeah, it was. It was just a matter of time. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I'm expecting him in victory lane before the end of the year.
Yep, but you had...
No pressure, Landon.
A.J. Allmendinger in 3rd, Austin Hill 4th, Sam Mayer 5th, Riley Herbst 6th. Ryan Truex, piloting the 18 car last night, was in 7th. Mr. Monster, helmet on punch swinger Ty Gibbs. Position 8, you had Ryan Sieg 9th, Jeremy Clements top 10. You ask where Dale Earnhardt Jr. was making his one lone start of the year.
Yeah.
He was in 11th.
Mm-hmm. Just missed it. He really never had the handle on the car.
He really never did. But going through the field, bullet pointing your bigger names, you had Daniel Hemrick 13th. You had Noah Gragson that fell to 20th. Let's see, Myatt Snyder 24th. And really, that's it.
Okay. Quick rundown on your points. Winners, obviously. Make a difference.
You got, let's see. You got Ty Gibbs.
He's got 3.
Number 1, you got 3. A.J. Allmendinger with 1 win. Noah Gragson 1 win. Brandon Jones 1 win.
So there's your guys who are locked.
Going through the official points report via NASCAR.
Okay.
You got overall points leader. You got A.J. Allmendinger leading. Ty Gibbs in 2nd. Noah Gragson 3rd. Brandon Jones 4th. You got Josh Berry 5th. Sam Mayer 6th. Justin Allgaier 7th. Daniel Hemrick 8th. Ryan Sieg 9th. Austin Hill in 10th. Riley Herbst 11th. Landon Castle in 12th. And outside looking in, you got Anthony Alfredo, Brandon Brown, Sheldon Creed, Jeb Burton, Brett Moffitt, and Jeremy Clements, and 13th through 18th, respectively.
Some still fairly big names there. And then you get to the post-race activity, which we can kind of detail a little bit more. We mentioned it in the fact that Landon Castle kind of gets up on the curbing, gets him loose. He bumps into Sam Mayer as they're 3 wide. Sam Mayer bumps into Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs only knows that the one car, Sam Mayer, is the one who got into him and got him loose and caused him to fall back to, 8th, 7th, whatever it was?
8th, yep.
So he goes after him on victory, on pit road. Not victory lane, on pit road.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Mayer, and both of these kids are real young. I mean, Ty Gibbs is 19. Sam Mayer's all of what? Is he
19?
Is he? I was about to say, is he 20 yet?
He's 19.
He's not. So you got a couple of 19-year-old kids, and Sam Mayer takes his helmet off. Ty Gibbs doesn't.
Yeah.
And apparently Sam Mayer said something about the fact that he didn't take his helmet off, using a word we can't put on radio. And
one of those words.
Yeah, one of those words. And apparently Ty took a little exception to it.
Yeah, he did. He didn't like it because
you got called out, kid.
Yeah, Grandpa was in victory lane with a 19 car and didn't have his back, so he had to have Denny Hamlin's PR guy pull him off of him because let's call this the rated Y7. We're gonna go below rated G. The rated Y7 version. Take your helmet off, Burrow.
There you go.
Take your helmet off, Burrow.
Yes.
Let's call it that. Ty didn't like it.
Burrow, Mule.
Yeah.
Go from there.
You just start escalating from there, and you'll see where it went.
Yeah.
But let's just say Mr. Gibbs is now the laughing stock of social media because some very high-profile motorsports individuals all the way through. Rule number 1, never throw a punch with your helmet on.
No.
If you're going to throw a punch, throw it with your helmet off.
Man up, kid. Man up. Well, throwing punches.
Somewhere Cale Yarborough is laughing.
Oh, yeah.
I disagree on one point.
Okay.
You said he's now a laughing stock.
Now, yeah. An even bigger laughing stock, let's say.
There you go.
That makes more sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, the kid's got talent, but he drives like a bull in a china shop.
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
I mean, let's go back to what he said last week after the post-race interview where he shoved John Hunter Nemechek out of the way. Quote, I definitely deserve one back, but we're racing for wins. They're hard to come by, so you have to take it. Well, if you're going to dish it out, you got to expect to get it back. There you go.
And the congregation of CRN said, amen.
Amen. All right. This weekend, the rest of the racing action starts actually before we end up our show here today.
They're actually live now.
Yeah. Formula E back in action this weekend. It's a doubleheader weekend for them. They're in Rome, Italy, running on a 19-turn, 2.10-mile street course. CBS Sports Network has the coverage, assuming you get it. Set to go. Technically, they said 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Central. You say they are green flag now?
They are green now. They're down to 29:43 plus the 1 lap.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on it. Tonight, Cup Series gets in their Martinsville race, running the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 400. Fox Sports 1 has the coverage tonight. MRN Radio begins 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. If you're asking me, I have no idea what's on the Fox network. This is a missed opportunity for the Fox network to put Martinsville on in prime time.
Yeah. Big time.
This was reruns.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they got going on. Some reality show, I bet. 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Yep, you heard me right. 1 a.m. Eastern Time, midnight Central Time tonight.
Something I will not be getting up to watch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'll be watching the replay tomorrow. Formula One back in action down under Australia. They're back there for the first time since 2020. They're going to run the Heineken Australian Grand Prix on the Melbourne circuit. This is a redesigned, we'll get back to this later, 14-turn, 3.2-mile long course. Then we get back to Formula E, running the second race of their doubleheader weekend. Same Rome course, same network, same bat time, same bat channel. CBS Sports Network, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Central. And we'll wrap everything up tomorrow with the NTT Data IndyCar Series. They get back into action for the first time since 2019. Thanks, California. They're going to run the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. They're going to turn 85 laps on an 11-turn, 1.968-mile long street course. NBC and the IndyCar Radio Network carrying the race, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. The NHRA is the only major series that we cover that's in season that has taken this weekend off. What's on Fox tonight?
I'm going to leave us with this before we go to break. Let's think about this.
Yeah.
On the mothership network of Fox,
yes,
we are putting on,
instead of the potential of a fantastic race at Martinsville,
we have the Los Angeles Galaxy facing off against the Los Angeles Football Club for Major League Soccer.
Major League
Football.
Soccer.
Fox. Come on, guys.
In a Los Angeles-based clash, which nobody in Alabama gives a flying rat's behind about. Sorry, boys and girls, but that's the truth.
And on that note,
let's go to break. And when we come back, we'll get into some news from the Cup Series because for those of you wondering about where in the world is Kyle Busch, we'll try and shed some light on it when we come back right here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
And portions of this weekend show being brought to you by the fine folks at Ox Foundation Solutions. These are the people that you need to talk to. If you're anywhere in the state of Alabama and you even think you might have a problem with the house when it comes to the foundation. I mean, let's face it, we've all gone out there. We may have even done our first mow of the year. I know I have. You haven't?
Not.
Wow. Okay. Well, I have. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of look around the house. And if you see cracks in the siding of your house, be it brick, cement, whatever, if you see cracks in the foundation, it's not a guarantee. Cracks in that brick doesn't guarantee that you've got a foundation problem, but it's something you probably ought to have checked out. And this is where Ox Foundation Solutions and our good friend Michael Hart come into play. Because, again, if you're anywhere in the state of Alabama, it doesn't matter where, he'll come out at no cost to you and at no obligation to you, and he'll figure out if there is something wrong with the foundation. And if there is, he's got it all written down with a great estimate, and you're ready to go. And if there's not, he's going to write down there's nothing wrong with the house and hand that to you as well. It's just that simple. On top of that, if there is something wrong, because you heard about it here on CRN, you remember the promo code WEST, you get 15% off of the quote that he just gave you. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. 205-362-6419 or Mike at oxfoundations.com. Don't forget the promo code WEST. That could get you 15% off if you need some work done. Tell him you heard about it right here on CRN. All right. Kyle Busch. I got to admit, when we got into the season and we heard that practice and qualifying was coming back pretty much at every single track.
Right.
I'm thinking Kyle Busch is going to be back. This gives them the chance to lock in that 18. Kyle Busch has yet to claim a win.
Overall, when you look at it, Toyota has struggled with this car overall.
I agree with that, and Kyle Busch has had a very mediocre beginning to the year.
Very mediocre.
And then came Richmond. Kyle Busch and his fans not very happy with NASCAR when they called him into the pits last weekend at Richmond for having tape on his grill. The thing is, this wasn't one of those quick calls. The pit stop where the tape was applied happened on lap 128. How do we know this? We've got cameras all over the place. They get to check these things out. He was called into the pits on lap 345 to get the tape removed. Brad Moran, who was the Cup Series managing director, explained why there was a long time between the tape being applied and the penalty. He said when he was first alerted, more than 100 laps after the application, lap 234, that's when he contacted pit road officials. Pit road officials had to investigate exactly what it was that did happen. And Moran added, quote, "So we went back while the race was going on, did our due diligence to ensure, first of all, the team indeed placed the tape on the grill area. In other words, it didn't just kind of come up off of the track and land there." Moran added to Sirius XM Satellite's NASCAR radio channel early this week, quote, "We certainly needed to do our due diligence on how it got there and what it really was. So we went back while the race was going on, did our due diligence to ensure, first of all, that the team had placed the tape on the grill area. We did go back. We found the footage. We found what we needed to say. Yes, the team had actually put it on. Unfortunately, they'd had a couple of stops, which they could have pulled it off. We probably wouldn't even be talking about that, but they didn't pull it off. We got the notification around lap 234. It took a bit of time. Obviously, a lot of green flag racing at the 3/4-mile track. Takes a while to pull all that up. We did our due diligence. Last thing that we were going to do was bring a vehicle down, find out later that something was picked up off the track, or they grabbed it on pit road or something to that effect. Once everything was sorted out, we did see how it happened and where it was. The crew chief was notified that it had to be removed.
Bradley.
He used the word due diligence a lot in there.
This guy over here, and I know the amount of cameras that are focused on pit road at any one given point during a race.
And let's face it, Kyle Busch is one of those guys that they are going to watch.
Hence the reason we know, because our lovely suite at Darlington Raceway is view impeded by these said cameras.
Yes, they are.
You mean to tell me it took you 134 laps just to see that when you have eyes on these cameras in a trailer that we have seen?
Oh, yeah.
At any given point.
And we've seen all the different video monitors and the ability to run back tape.
I'm not buying that. It took you 134 laps just to see that. when you have people that review every single pit stop, and you could have seen that little swipe of tape go just like that.
Now, that being said, no, you can't put tape on the grill.
Right. Understandable.
From what we are led to believe, they were actually trying to put it over a brake duct, which you can do.
You can't, yeah.
But they missed.
Which apparently these brake ducts on the new cars in between the grill is about that far.
Mm-hmm. Fairly easy to miss.
Very close.
So it was a mistake. Either way, Kyle Busch fans got their undies in a wad. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to have to make it up.
That's soapbox moment number 1 for the Cup Series for today for me, kids.
Let's go to the flip side of this.
Yeah.
And some of you may have actually missed this. But Joe Gibbs Racing debuted a new way to perform pit stops at Richmond last week. And likely it's going to become the new way for most all the teams. This is a new form that Joe Gibbs Racing talked to NASCAR about, was studied by NASCAR as soon as Joe Gibbs Racing informed them of their plans to do it, and NASCAR didn't clear it until last weekend when they finally allowed it.
And guess what happened as a result of it?
Joe Gibbs Racing's pit crew coach, Brian Halland, noted this, quote, "We definitely found some speed with it. The difference is that the rear tire changer does not wait until the car pulls in to then run behind the car and begin the tire change routine. Instead, he runs out with the jackman and the front tire changer to change left side tires. In other words, they are already in place when the car comes to a stop."
See virtual IndyCar style.
Exactly. Then both tire changers run around the front of the car to change the right sides. The guy who was on the left side of the front becomes the rear tire changer. The guy who was on the left side in the rear tire changer becomes the right side front tire changer in the process. All of this allows the gas man to keep the fuel flowing into the car without any interruption or having to step aside waiting for somebody to run either in front or behind him. What does this do? Specifically for Denny Hamlin's winning car, they did this on the 11 car the entire race. The pit stops for Denny Hamlin, anywhere from 0.3 to 0.7 of a second faster than the way NASCAR previously had pit stops approved. What does that mean in the end? Well, remember, Denny Hamlin was your winner, right? For the first time ever, NASCAR is seeing sub-10-second pit stops for 4 tire changes.
And it was actually not Denny Hamlin's crew that had the fastest one.
And that being said, Hamlin's final pit stop clocked in at 9.4 seconds. That was gas and 4 tires.
And that was not the fastest pit stop.
Whose
the
was?
The fastest pit stop was from the 18 car.
Yeah.
9.19 seconds.
Before too long, as they get this perfected, we'll see a sub-9 second pit stop.
I won't be surprised if we see sub-9 tonight.
Might. All right, so you got Hamlin's final pit stop. Again, this is under green flag, and remember what we talked about during the recap. Hamlin and Kevin Harvick, they had to unlap themselves and then get back around to the front of the field to where they were able to battle it out for the win, right? Hamlin's final pit stop, 9.4 seconds. Second place finisher Kevin Harvick's final pit stop, happening at about the same time Hamlin's did, 9.9 seconds. 9.4 to 9.9 is 0.5 seconds, correct?
Yep.
Math, don't fail me now. The gap between Hamlin and Harvick's second place finish at the end of the race, 0.552 seconds.
Shocker. There's your gap.
Halland, the Joe Gibbs Racing pit crew coach, noted that due to varying sizes of pit road around NASCAR, they might not actually use it this weekend. Quote, "We're going to have to look at it, go back to the past races and see about the spacing, what pit road looks like, cars driving past us. So it might be situational. We'll make the decision later on in the week on what we need to do. We do intend to run this pit stop style whenever possible." I don't know about Martinsville. It is it's a fairly narrow pit road, but I would imagine, given the opportunity, they're going to take advantage of it because it is notably faster than what we've been used to seeing.
Somebody's going to try it.
You know it. Absolutely. You know it.
Yep.
If you were watching yesterday and happened to see qualifying, you might have seen the car that is now on our CRN live YouTube feed via jski.com. We got several pictures this weekend. If you are checking out CRN Racing, you get to see these vehicles. Or, in the case of one, a track layout. Toyota Racing Development and Yahoo. You know, that search engine that got swamped by Google many, many years ago?
Yeah. Yahoo's taking advantage of motorsports in general.
And they needed to. They've become partners in a multi-year deal that will benefit most of the Toyota teams, not all. Joe Gibbs Racing, Kyle Busch Motorsports, Venturini Motorsports, Keith Kunz Motorsports. So we're talking NASCAR all the way through the top 3 series into the ARCA Racing Series as well.
Down to dirt midgets.
Yeah. And tonight at Martinsville Speedway, the number 20 of Christopher Bell wearing the Yahoo sponsorship and colors. Again, you can see the car on our CRN Live YouTube feed via jski.com. We thank them for that.
It's sharp.
It was a good-looking car. I saw it in qualifying yesterday.
It's a good-looking car.
Let's see here. Oh, gosh. Penalties.
Yeah.
Who saw this happening? We did. National Motorsports Appeals Panel heard the Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing appeal of the penalties that were handed down after the Atlanta race. That's where NASCAR said that during a teardown at their Research and Development Center in North Carolina, they found that there were some parts on the number 6 car that had modified what they term a single source part. And that's, in other words, a part that you can't modify. That's a massive no-no. So NASCAR dropped a massive Thor-size hammer on RFK, an L2 penalty, where the 6 car got 100-point penalties to the driver and to the owner, a 4-race crew chief suspension, and should they make the playoffs, they have an automatic 10-point penalty there, too. Thursday, the panel heard and decided that the penalties would stand without modification. RFK says that they're not going to appeal any further.
Gentlemen, yesterday Bob Pockrass talked with Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski revealed, since NASCAR wasn't doing it, he revealed what happens.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you hear it from the horse's mouth. This is courtesy of Bob Pockrass from Fox Sports, a video on his social media, Brad Keselowski explaining this.
I look forward to this.
Repaired tail panel, and it had a key feature that NASCAR deemed was not repaired adequately enough, and it's a tough situation. We didn't want to run the tail panel. We didn't have any new tail panels to put on the car, and we had a tail panel with 3 races on it, and we did some repairs to it. We probably could have done a better job on the repair, and we put NASCAR in a tough spot, and it's kind of like a trickle-down effect. I wish we had, quite frankly, done a better job repairing it, but we can't go back on it. And I understand NASCAR's position. It's kind of one of those things where everybody's right and everybody's wrong at the same time, and ultimately we'll have to learn to be better for it.
There you go.
Everybody's right and everybody's wrong. But you know what you attribute that to? Parts shortage.
That's also true. The result of this, Brad Keselowski officially begins going into tonight at Martinsville in 31st place in the point standings. In order to make the playoffs, you probably know this by now, but we'll refresh it just in case you don't. Brad needs to recover and finish in the top 16 in points, or he needs to be inside the top 30 in points and win a race.
I think that'll probably happen.
Top 30 in points, I don't have a problem with. Winning the race, I'm beginning to see some life out of RFK Racing that we haven't seen over the past couple of years.
The jury.
So I'm not going to say that winning a race is out of the question.
For me, the jury's still out for tonight.
Tonight, yes. But I'm not going to say that throughout the course of the season that winning a race is not out of the question for them.
The jury is definitely out next weekend when they put the grip tires on and head to the dirt surface.
Yeah. But then you come to Talladega.
2 weeks? You cannot tell me that he won't be a threat.
Brad's a pretty good racer on super speedways. And we all know that pretty much anybody can win at a super speedway.
Pretty much.
There you go. So Brad Keselowski last year left Team Penske to go to Roush Fenway. Became Roush Fenway Racing, right? Over at Stewart-Haas Racing, kind of like NASCAR as a whole, they're seeing a youth movement. Will that include one Kevin Harvick? We'll let you know when we come back because we got to take a break. Thank you for checking us out here. We got a long way to go right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
got this and then some commentary coming. To Stewart-Haas Racing, they, and we teased this just before the break, like NASCAR as a whole, kind of undergoing a youth movement. They're actually going to continue that youth movement at the end of the year. Eric Almirola is set to retire at the end of this year. So depending on who's out there, Xfinity Series driver Riley Herbst, somebody else? Don't know yet. No. Stewart-Haas Racing could see 3 of their Cup Series drivers under the age of 30 because you got to remember, Cole Custer, you got Chase Briscoe, they're both under the age of 30. Then we have the unknown of the number 10 car, and that leaves the veteran of Stewart-Haas Racing, and that's one of the veterans of NASCAR, 46-year-old Kevin Harvick. He was asked this week about it, and he said, nope, not done yet. But he is in the final year of his deal at Stewart-Haas Racing. Harvick, when talking about it, said, quote, I like Stewart-Haas Racing. I like the atmosphere. I like the people. That's really the biggest reason that I like to do it, especially this year. You're with a group of people where you're constantly problem solving. You're trying to fix it faster than everybody else, and you're coming to something that is better than everybody else so that you can win races. I like the core group of guys that I started here with, and that's why they all came here, and I guess I would feel like I'm abandoning them if I didn't do a couple more years.
That's the old school racer talking right there.
Yeah.
No question about it.
So, and we talked about this a long time ago. We predicted on this show 2 names in 2 homes ago. That when Kevin Harvick said, this is going to be my last year at Richard Childress Racing, we said, he and Tony Stewart are great friends. He'll be in a Stewart-Haas Racing car. It took him a long time to announce it, but it came true. I doubt seriously that there's going to be anything that's going to keep them from coming up with an extension for however long Kevin Harvick decides he wants to go. Kevin Harvick knows he's got a job waiting for him at Fox or NBC or whoever it is that comes up with NASCAR rights when he does retire.
ESPN.
Yeah. He'll have a broadcasting job waiting for him. But until he feels like he's done racing, I bet you Tony and Gene Haas have a spot for him.
Oh, yeah.
As long as he wants it.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Cole Custer, I don't see him going anywhere. Chase Briscoe, winning the race certainly didn't hurt. I don't see him going anywhere.
He's picking up. Custer is progressively picking up race by race.
Yeah. So the question becomes, who ends up in the 10 car? I mean, Riley Herbst has been there. He, quote unquote, is paying his dues, but I'm not 100% sold that he's ready yet to go to Cup. I'm about 2/3 sold that he's ready to go to Cup, which is not enough.
I'm not even 2/3 sold.
That's not enough for me.
He's not ready for Cup.
So it's going to be interesting to watch this process.
I mean, Stewart-Haas doesn't have Ryan Preece laying in the wings for nothing.
That's true. Be interesting to see who ends up in the 10 car. All right. And then we get back to yesterday. Talked about how, well, you saw qualifying.
Yeah.
We showed you the picture of the car from Christopher Bell just a moment ago. We saw it first on track yesterday at qualifying. You noticed it first, and I kind of wasn't paying attention because I was kind of wrapping up the show. I had qualifying on in the background. And then all of a sudden, Matt sends me a text. And it goes, they're shifting at Martinsville. And I went, what? And I started paying attention. And sure enough, they're shifting at Martinsville. So I asked you the question, is this the result of them going from the 4-speed transmissions to the 5-speed transmissions?
No stinking question about it. No question about it. Because when you got an overdrive gear like that, something's got to give. Martinsville is all about getting through the corners, rolling the corners, launching off the corners. And I'm pretty sure a guy I know personally that drives in the Camping World Truck Series will verify that statement. But in the year of our Lord, 2022, in April, we are shifting at Martinsville. Clint Boyer was about to lose his mind.
He was too.
He went, these guys are shifting.
Yeah.
They're shifting 4 times a lap. Corner exit, corner entry.
Yep. Downshifting going in corner entry, upshifting as they come off.
Last time I checked, 400 times 4 is 1,600 shifts.
It's going to be interesting to see whether transmissions or the new rear ends
Transaxles.
fail, and at what rate.
I would say
tonight.
Even though probably somewhere, somebody that's in the IMSA series, Rolex 24-hour race, Le Mans is probably laughing at me going, 1,600 shifts, that's nothing. When you're doing it in cars that are not accustomed to it on a oval.
Yeah. I mean, a road
Different
course
story.
is one thing. Road course is one thing.
True. So I'm going to call my shot at 8:50 a.m. on April the 9th. The over-under number, I'm going to say on failed transmissions and or rear gear parts will be 5. I'm taking the over.
There you go. We'll find out tonight. And we'll let you know next week because we've got it on the air. You heard it. And, it's on YouTube in perpetuity.
Yep.
Let's go down to the Xfinity Series. Couple of pictures for you here. And we start off with, we mentioned him, Dale Earnhardt Jr. He runs one race each and every year since he retired full-time from Cup Series racing. This year, he ran it last night, Martinsville Speedway, number 88 Hellman-sponsored Chevrolet Camaro, courtesy of NASCAR.com. If you missed it on track last night, you can see it there on our YouTube feed at CRN Live. And again, for those of you who are new to us, yes, we do have the ability to be heard on the radio, but we also have the ability to be seen. I don't know whether that's good or a bad thing.
True.
Thanks to John for setting it all up. And you get the chance to see some of these pictures. Go to YouTube, look up CRN Live. Cowlick Racing. And this goes back to, the regular 5 lug nuts per wheel. Cowlick Racing was fined for loose lug nuts on not just one, but 2 of their Xfinity Series racers, both the 10 and the 16 from last weekend, each found with 1 loose lug nut at Richmond. $5,000 fines for crew chiefs of Jason Trinchier of the 10 car and Bruce Slicker of the 16. But there is good news for Cowlick. You can see this car on CRN Live as well. Daniel Hemrick in the number 11 Camaro Circle is coming on board. They're a water bottle and filter cartridge system that also offers 40 flavors for your water. So if you're just like, plain water, whatever, I'd like some flavor, Circle could be your answer. Thanks to jski.com for the pic that you see on our CRN Live YouTube side. The look debuted last night at Martinsville and will return for some select races throughout the course of the season, none of which were detailed.
I think the car looks good.
Pretty good looking
personally.
car, I got to admit. And then we get to the Camping World Truck Series. Oh, by the way, let's get you another picture. ThorSport Racing entered a 5th truck on Thursday evening back at Martinsville, and they brought back Johnny Sauter to drive that number 13. The move reunited the pair along with the sponsor, Protect the Harvest. Protect the Harvest is a nonprofit organization created to defend American families, farmers, sportsmen, and animal lovers from what Protect the Harvest terms the, quote, radical animal rights movement. Yeah. I kind of like that. Carl Joyner Jr. was the crew chief on that ride that you can see our CRN YouTube live feed right now, courtesy of jakeski.com.
The cool part about that truck that he revealed after the race is that is the first ever truck that ThorSport has built from the ground up.
Wow.
Chassis, body work, and all.
My question is why isn't he still there? Johnny Sauter's got a lot still to give, as proven by the fact that he beat Kyle Busch and finished second in Martinsville.
He does.
On Thursday.
He does, but I think it's more a matter of father time catching up. He's just wanting to scale himself back.
Maybe.
Honestly.
And then there was this move that is somewhat questionable. G2G Racing and driver Matt Jaskell parting ways this week just before Thursday night's Martinsville race. Jaskell sponsored by a group called Auto Parts 4 Less, the number 4. But according to Jaskell, in a statement, he claimed that the organization, G2G Racing, had requested a modification to their contract, one which neither Jaskell nor his sponsor could agree to. So, he says, G2G Racing decided to suspend the contract for driver and sponsor, saying that they wanted to go into a different direction. Now, G2G Racing has not commented as of airtime. And as far as Thursday night, they turned to a kid by the name of Caden Honeycutt, put him in the number 46 on Thursday night. He finished 34th and only ran 107 of the race's 200 laps. Now, we don't know whether Jaskell would have done any better, but I don't think he would have done much worse. So there's more to this story. Somewhere down the line, there's more to this story, and I'll be interested to see what it turns out to be.
it's an unfortunate way for me to word it, but I'm going to word it this way. The team owner of G2G has not had a very good track record and a not very good history of, let's just say, team ownership. Because he's done things in different forms of sports, and said teams have folded before the season even starts.
Oops.
So I guarantee you this is going to end up backfiring on said team owner because of something sneaky. Let's call it that.
I would say so. And then there's this, and it really doesn't matter what you think about Hailie Deegan. And Hailie Deegan, she got a bee under her bonnet on Thursday night, and she was talking with one of the other drivers there about a situation that they had on track. But that being said, she doesn't deserve this. Hailie Deegan and her boyfriend by the name of Chase Cabre posted a video onto social media that they entitled, quote, "Our lives are being threatened." Deegan and Cabre included an altered audio snippet in their video where a person speaking actually threatens Cabre, and it also includes a handwritten message specifically to Cabre, making even more threats to him. She adds in there that there is an 8-page handwritten letter that was also sent to her team, David Gilliland Racing, or DGR, where the person, unnamed, Deegan says, states, quote, that he was dating me and in a relationship with me for multiple months, and how he was just like in love with me, infatuated with me. I was his soulmate. Kind of scared me. She said that this person, we shall now refer to as a stalker, she said that the stalker in question was caught up in a catfishing scheme done through a fake Hailie Deegan account set up on social media by some idiot, saying, quote, this account went to the effect of saying, oh, it's all a fake relationship. It's just straight business relationship. He pretty much makes me do everything, practically being held hostage. He beats me, physically abuses me. None of that is true about Chase Cabre, she says. She adds that the authorities, all the way up to the FBI, have been alerted to this situation. NASCAR security is highly aware. Every night outside of her home that she shares with Cabre, there is a police unit stationed. Concludes that she, Cabre, and her father, noted motocross racer Brian Deegan, have all actually been in contact with said stalker, trying to tell the stalker that there is no truth to this, that he is looking at a fake account, but he ain't buying it. NASCAR told NBC News, quote, we have measures in place to increase our safety on and off the track. I mean, this guy got to the point where he was pulled in by some fake Hailie Deegan account to the point where he actually believes that he and Hailie are in a long-term relationship. Have you actually talked to her? I'm not talking about chatting online. I'm talking about, have you actually spoken to her on the phone and she has expressed any feelings towards you in a loving or even liking way in any way, shape, or form?
Do you have her phone number? Do you know her date of birth?
All I can say is call me. I have the perfect referral. My specialist will help you out.
Yes, we know people. We're just going to leave it at that. We know people. Think,
yeah.
Well, it was 50 years ago that a movie came out that had the famous words of leave the gun, take the cannoli. Just leave it at that. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at what NASCAR has got set as far as Hall of Fame finalists. That's right. The list came out this week for the 2023 class. You will be able to vote shortly. Not yet. We'll give you an idea of who it is that you'll be able to vote for when we come back. Got NHRA, Formula One, Indycar as well. All that and more coming up in hour number 2 right here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's talk one more note about NASCAR, and this is the NASCAR Hall of Fame. They've unveiled their finalists for the 2023 Hall of Fame voting. Among the returning names on the ballot are, these are in alphabetical order, showing no favorites: Neil Bonnet, Jeff Burton, Carl Edwards, Harry Gant, Harry Hyde, Larry Phillips, Ricky Rudd, Kirk Shelmerdine. These are on the modern ballot, mind you. 2 inductees will be chosen off of this. This is the new way where we only get 3 inductees per year instead of 5. Your newcomers, Tim Brewer and Matt Kenseth. So we'll get 2 out of that side. And I've already kind of figured out the 2 that I'm going to be pulling for. Harry Hyde, Harry Gant. Neil Bonnet is a 2B for me to Harry Hyde's 2A.
Harry Hyde's 1A for me.
Okay.
1B/2. Never had to word it that way, but I'm going to call it that way. It's a high 2, low 1. As much as I want to say Neil Bonnet, I don't see him getting in this year.
I don't know. I kind of don't either.
I honestly see.
He'll be there eventually.
I honestly see Matt Kenseth getting in.
I'm going to hate that because he's going to get in faster than Harry Gant.
I know. I see it happening, though. Unfortunately, I see it happening.
Here's your other side of the ballot. This is the Pioneer ballot. In other words, go back before the modern era, 1972 and before. Returnees, Sam Ard, Banjo Matthews, Herschel McGriff, Ralph Moody, joined by your first-time nominee, A.J. Foyt. Now, I have said on numerous occasions I am a massive A.J. Foyt fan. Mm-hmm. But Sam Ard, Banjo Matthews, Herschel McGriff, Ralph Moody, sorry, A.J., you're not getting in on this time. I'm going to go Ralph Moody. Now, this is who I'm pulling for. I don't know who's going to get in.
This is a true 1A, 1B here between Ralph Moody and Sam Ard.
Yeah, Sam Ard sticks out to me as well.
Yep.
Got the Landmark Award nominees returning include Alvin Hawkins, NASCAR's very first flagman. Then you got Mike Helton and Dr. Joseph Mattioli, who is the founder of Pocono Raceway. No disrespect to either Mattioli or Helton, but I kind of want to see Alvin Hawkins get in.
For me, it's either him or Janet Guthrie.
Yeah.
To get in.
First-time nominees are Janet Guthrie, Lisa France Kennedy. One of them will be inducted into the Hall next year. We'll see who ends up being there. Congratulations to all the nominees, by the way.
Eventually, with the Landmark Award, you know Mike Hilton's going to get in eventually.
Oh, sure.
Lisa France Kennedy is going to get in eventually.
Sure.
They've both done an astronomical amount of contribution.
Probably Joseph Mattioli will as well, because regardless of what you might think of Pocono Raceway, it is vastly different than any other track on the circuit, number one. And Mattioli actually had he had the ear of the France family for a good long time, too.
Yeah.
So he was actually quite influential. He'll probably eventually get, if he doesn't get in this time, he'll probably eventually get in. I would think Janet Guthrie, because of the groundbreaking situation that she brought to NASCAR, will get in eventually. But I'm sorry, folks. I would love to see NASCAR's very first official flagman, get in. I'd love to see it. I don't know whether it'll happen or not.
Yep.
We'll find out. Let's turn our attention to the National Hot Rod Association, the NHRA, where fans have a rare chance to not only see, but you can actually own some of the series' notable artifacts because they are up for auction. It's performed by Mecum On Time through the website. This is a long one, so you might actually want to look it up, but ontime.mecum, M-E-C-U-M, Mecum, ontime.mecum.com/auction/treasures for the NHRA vault. You can figure out the rest. Or you can just go on to NHRA.com, look up the story, and you can click the link. Items up for bid includes things like notable jackets, artwork, and a whole lot of other keepsakes that have been on display in the past at the Wally Parks NHRA Motorsports Museum, but they've since been pulled as they've been doing a rotation, and they've just been stored in an off-site warehouse. Museum officials state that warehouse is pretty much full, They've been, again, rotating display items. They started looking through what they had, decided that some of these items they were probably not going to put back on display, so we're going to sell them off. Dale Coleman, member of the NHRA board, Museum's board of directors, said, quote, 25 years ago or so, we decided to help the NHRA launch a museum on our grounds. There's a number of vintage jackets for some Southern California's earliest car clubs that are in pristine condition. We have hundreds of pieces of artwork, fine art, very high-end representation of classic races from the past, some high-end photographs of the past. We have some really great high-end large format mounted photographs of notable names like Carroll Shelby and his team when they were building the first Shelby cars, including Ken Miles driving a number of those vehicles. Let me refer you back to the movie that just came out a couple of years ago called Ford versus Ferrari, if you want to know about Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles. Expect a whole lot more to go up on the site as well. The auction actually went live on April the 1st. It'll continue on through May the 19th. That being said, while I would love to have some of this stuff, I might not be able to afford it.
Yeah, the checkbook not be sizable enough to obtain a piece of memorabilia.
But that being said, fun to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Fun to look at. We noted last season that the NHRA and Atlanta Dragway ended their partnership. Earlier this year, we found out that next year, 2023, is going to be the final year for Wild Horse Pass Raceway Park in Arizona. In case you've forgotten, this year is the final year of the NHRA running top-level racing, or quite frankly, any racing at Houston Raceway Park, because reports have the event, number one, almost sold out, but they're closing because that location is prone to flooding. Hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, you think about some of the hurricanes that we've had over the past couple of years, and they got swamped. And then you got to do all the cleanup, and you got to do all of your due diligence to make sure that the buildings aren't suddenly affected with a whole lot of black mold.
Mm-hmm.
It just got to the point where it got to be too much. And I understand that.
Well, it's understandable.
I hate to say it, but it's true. So now we got to figure out the replacement for Atlanta, a replacement for Houston, and a replacement for Arizona if they want to keep a 24-race schedule for the drag racing series known as the Camping World Drag Racing Series. I'd love to see somebody in Alabama step up, but I don't think that it's going to happen.
Here's some cross promotion for you.
Oh, by the way, yeah.
Let's put it. I mean, there's enough space back there. Let's put a drag strip down the back stretch of back down the Alabama Gaines Super Stretch.
I like where you're going with that. Talladega Motorsports Park. Got an interesting idea.
I like to say now that movie goes, hey, it could happen.
It could happen. Will it? I don't know. Could it? I'd like to think so.
Russell.
Which, by the way, we hope to have Russell and maybe even Brian Crichton, the track president at Talladega Superspeedway, hope to have him on next weekend on the show.
That'd be great.
It'd be fun. And then there's another picture for you here, and we don't honestly often get them. But thanks to NHRA.com, this one was just too good to pass up. Bob Tasca III and his Tasca Racing operation have announced their partnership with PPG. PPG, known for their high-quality automotive paints, has been extended on Tasca's Ford Shelby Mustang funny car. They're going to be an associate sponsor for most of the season, but they're going to be primary on and off. They're going to show off a very colorful paint scheme at two different races, paint scheme that you can kind of get an idea of right now. The New England Nationals in New Hampshire and the Pep Boys NHRA Nationals in Pennsylvania are said to have a color scheme something like what you're seeing on CRN live on YouTube, thanks to NHRA.com for that picture. Task has noted this. He's been around for about a quarter of a century. He's had two primary sponsors over that time. It's either PPG Paints or Ford themselves. And he's still been able to make it work. Congratulations to Bob Tasca and Tasca
Looking
Racing.
at that car, there would be one change I would make.
Yeah.
On the side where the door is, put the PPG logo larger instead of having that long sentence down the side of the car.
Kind of see where you're going with that. But
have it bigger. Car looks great.
I would say this. PPG probably approved that paint scheme.
Probably did.
So they must like it. I'll give them that.
Hey, Penske, look at this car. Tell me what color wheels it has. It has black wheels. Look how good it looks with black wheels.
For those of you that are new to the show, Matt has this thing about
colored wheels.
I
have a peeve about it.
And white racing shoes.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that. Next picture in line also turns our attention over the IndyCar series. Almazend is a name that you probably have not heard of, but they have joined up with Ed Carpenter Racing, and specifically Carpenter himself. For those of you that don't know much about the IndyCar series, Ed Carpenter has Ed Carpenter Racing, yes, but Ed Carpenter only drives a handful of races a year. He only drives the oval track races. All the road and the street courses, he doesn't do those. It's strange, but that's the way he likes it, so okay. So for those remaining oval course races that Carpenter only runs, by the way, he's added a third car this year to be able to do that. It's the number 33 Chevrolet powered entry. He's got 4 remaining oval track races this year, including the Indy 500, and it's Almazend Neuro, a sub-brand of a company called BitNile Holdings that is committed to be Carpenter's primary sponsor for all of them. The picture is now up, or should be up and momentarily. Todd Alt III is the founder and the chairman of Almazend and the CEO of BitNile, and he's giving out tickets to Alzheimer's caregivers to be able to go to these remaining oval track races that are left on the schedule. This is a car that debuted at Texas Motor Speedway under a somewhat plainer paint scheme, but for the announcement, they debuted that brighter purple with the light blue highlights that you can see now on the CRN Live YouTube feed, courtesy of IndyCar.com. This is something that is very, very close to Todd Alt III. His grandparents passed away due to Alzheimer's, stated that his father currently suffers from it as well. Alt said that he is dedicating himself to finding new treatments, if not an outright cure.
Good-looking race car.
It is a good-looking race car
with that purple and teal.
I am all about going and finding that cure. I personally have not had a family member that has suffered from Alzheimer's.
Same
but
here.
I know of people who have. It's rough. And our thoughts and our prayers out to Todd Alt when it comes to his father and his grandparents. And, hey, man, all the power in the world to you. I hope you're able to do exactly what you're trying to do. Hope it works. IndyCar's in an odd situation here. Indy 500 is a 33-car field. And there was a time during IndyCar's lowest point where they had a hard time coming up with a 33-car field. This year, we thought we considered this a lock. We got more full-time cars than we have ever had in the IndyCar series. 27, 26, 27.
Yep.
I forget which one it is. But either way.
27.
27. We figured a couple of these teams go out there like they always do and put an extra car out there just for the Indy 500. Boom, we're going to get 33, no problem. Turns out it's going to be much harder to reach than what we previously thought because they're still locked in at 32 entries. Catherine Legg's entry, which is usual for just the Indy 500, that's actually been nixed. Her chance to lease one of the Honda 18 engines available from Honda has fallen through. Then there's Zach Veach's plan. He was going to lease a Chevrolet engine using a borrowed chassis from another team. That's been iced because his sponsor and or backer withdrew. Reports have IndyCar talking now to teams like, according to Racer.com, AJ Foyt, Dale Coyne, Juncos Hollinger Racing, about potentially adding another car, which could put you up to 33. But the major hurdle amongst those teams seems to be a lack of personnel able to properly field another racer out of any of those shops. Whether or not there's a car likely available, they just ain't got the manpower to pit it, in other words.
Check that. There's 26 at Long Beach this weekend.
There you go. So outside of the 3 that we just mentioned, there are 2 other possibilities. There's Paretta Autosport. We talked about them last year. This is the all-female operation using driver Simona Di Silvestro. They haven't committed one way or the other yet. And there's a group called Cusick Motorsports. If you haven't heard of them, don't worry. They're not all that well known. They got driver Stefan Wilson. They haven't committed either way either. There's Top Gun Racing, but they appear to be out because they're in an ownership lawsuit battle over who owns the race cars themselves. So that pretty much probably leaves driver R.C. Anderson out of the 2022 race. Who would have thought in a year where you have the most full-time entries that IndyCar has ever had, and you only, quote-unquote, gotta air bunnies, inside joke, you only got to get 7 more using tomorrow's starting lineup of 26 full-time cars. You only got to get 7 more cars. Who would have thought that's 7 cars, or in this case, 1 more, because we have 32 confirmed entries for this year's Indy 500. Who would have thought that getting one more would have been that hard?
Well, we do have the livery of a CRN Dallara IndyCar.
Yeah.
I have helmet, have fire suit.
Yeah.
All FIA legal.
Sure.
Will travel.
Mm-hmm.
I know my way up 65.
And I bet you, given the opportunity, they'd be willing to do a late rookie test for you.
Don't think for 1 second that I won't do it. I won't bail off 240 off in the first turn in Indianapolis with my rear end that high off the ground.
There you go. Hey, 18 Honda engines, 17 are spoken for. 18 Chevrolet engines, only 16 are spoken for. That means they're available.
I'll drive either one of them. I don't care.
Yeah.
I would drive a Lotus.
Got the paint scheme?
Man, I can't
Just
believe
need
I
a
just,
chassis. Just
Man,
need a chassis and a group willing to put him out there and put him in the car.
I can't believe I just said that. I would drive a Lotus.
Would you?
If it put me in the 33 car field, I would drive a Lotus powered CRN car.
Lotus hasn't been in IndyCar in, what, 5 years? Is it 4 or 5?
More like about 7.
Was it more than that? Okay.
Something like that, yeah. Like 15.
That Lotus engine was a dog. It was a dog.
Yeah.
It was not good.
Nope.
Let's go from one open wheel series to another open wheel series. Let's turn our attention over to Formula One. Aston Martin's reserve driver, who subbed in for Sebastian Vettel the first 2 races of the year because, well, Vettel was sitting out due to a positive COVID diagnosis, is Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg now goes back to reserve activity. He's actually been out of Formula One full-time since the end of the 2019 season, became a reserve driver for what was Racing Point, is now Aston Martin beginning in 2020. But after his finish outside of the top 10 in Saudi Arabia and getting the information that Vettel has been cleared and will be back behind the wheel this weekend, it kind of allowed Hülkenberg to reflect. He got to talking about it with reporters, said that, well, I mean, this is the obvious question. Hey, would you like to be back in Formula One full-time?
Survey says.
Duh.
Ding.
Yeah. Nico Hülkenberg professionally replied, yes, of course. If there's a good opportunity, I'm definitely up for it. Now, having been away and having done Bahrain, the Russia qualifying, the excitement of the race, the battling on lap 1, there's a lot of great things that happen in Formula One. It's been a lot of fun. So if the right opportunity is there, of course. But that's not going to be an easy task. I think everyone's learning curve is very steep with these new cars. There's a lot to learn, you know. We'll continue for the months to come, basically, being a reserve driver. You and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get a Formula One ride. There's only 20 of them in the world, pending what might happen in the future, which we'll get back to later. There's only 20 of these in the world, and you got a whole lot of drivers trying to get to it. You got Formula 2, Formula 3, the W Series, which is equivalent to Formula 3. All of those drivers are shuffling up to the point where IndyCar has become a viable option for these drivers. Formula E has become a viable option for these drivers because they hit that ceiling, and they never can seem to break through. And that ceiling could be Formula 3, could be Formula 2, but they never can seem to break through to Formula 1 just because of the vastly limited number of seats that are available.
Right.
Now, eventually there's going to become this youth movement because Fernando Alonso has more racing days behind him than ahead of him in Formula 1. We've talked about Lewis Hamilton, who's 36, I think.
Yeah, he's the same age as me.
Sooner or later, he's going to be out. Kevin Magnussen, who, yes, returned, probably will be out sooner rather than later. You've got some drivers who are getting up there in years. Sooner or later, they're going to be out. They're going to have a youth movement. But it ain't happening this year. It's not probably happening next year, truth be told. Fernando Alonso was asked about it just this week, and he said, yeah, I feel like I've got a couple more years left in me. They're not leaving this situation fast. You want to know why? Well, Lewis Hamilton's getting paid $55 million this year. And yeah, I mean, there's only so much money that you can have, but it's hard to walk away from a contract that says, hey, I'm going to pay you $55 million.
Yeah, that would be hard.
Even the back runners are making close to $1 million a year. Mick Schumacher, rookie last year, who, and this is not of Mick Schumacher's fault, by the way, did nothing The dude didn't score a championship point last year. He's making $1 million this year from Haas F1. That's a hard contract to walk away from. And knowing the fact that you could get up to maybe as much as $55 million, I ain't walking away from it anytime too soon.
No, sir.
None of these drivers are going anywhere anytime fast.
Nope.
There ain't many seats available for one Nico Hülkenberg. If he wants to be full-time again, truth be told, he might want to look at a series other than Formula One. Indycar, Formula E. But right now, as of last year, he pretty much nixed those almost as soon as the offseason began. Dude, that's on you. You wanted to be a full-time racer, you should have expanded out your options.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying. That being said, not all is good news when it comes to Sebastian Vettel. Yes, he's back in the Aston Martin. We'll tell you why it's not all good news for one Sebastian Vettel. When we come back, you're listening to CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, John Myers here with you. We appreciate you checking us out and all the different ways you can check us out. Obviously on the FM dial if you're in East Central Alabama and that station's app, or you can just go on to our YouTube page. Go onto YouTube, type in CRN Live, boom, right there. Plus, we have all kinds of social media stuff.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, no Snapchat, no TikTok.
And then John's got ourselves a nice, wonderful webpage that he is in control of, John.
Yes.
The webpage is.
Oh, you want me to
I
spell
do.
out the webpage?
I want you to actually be a part of the show.
Our website is beautiful. Check it out. It's crnradio.us.
All kinds of stuff there. Pictures, history of us, blogs, all kinds of stuff. Go check it out. Before the break, we were talking about Aston Martin and Nico Hülkenberg. Well, Nico Hülkenberg is back into the reserve role because Sebastian Vettel's back. He has finally recovered from his little bout with COVID, but not a great start for him. First of all, suffered an engine failure during P1 or practice session number 1. He actually helped put it out, grabbed a fire extinguisher from a safety official and helped put the fire out. And then sat in that area as they pushed the car behind the wall in that area, and he sat behind the wall waiting for the practice session to finish. About 15 minutes later, it did. He then borrowed a Marshall's moped and rode back to the pits. That's fairly normal. Happens fairly often. The drivers find themselves in a weird part of the track. They're able to grab a moped from one of the officials, and they're able to go back to the pits. Turns out the way that he did it, though, was a no-no. He's been fined 5,000 euros. The no-no is that he grabbed the safety official's moped and rode back to the pits using the racing surface instead of the perimeter road that runs parallel to said racing surface where they're supposed to go. No one had given Vettel permission to use the actual racetrack, so it incurs the penalty. You can find it if you are so inclined, which if you are, why? To go into the Formula One rulebook, Article 27.7.
Have yourself a day, Sebastian Vettel.
Yes.
Have yourself a day.
Good luck. Hope you're well. As for this weekend down under, here comes our next and last picture of the weekend, courtesy of the fine folks at highwaynews.pro. Highwaynewspro.com, I'm sorry. Let me get it right. Here's your new layout for the Albert Park Racecourse in Melbourne, Australia, that the race organizers have been working on during the COVID downtime. Remember, 2019 comes along, Formula One is ready to go racing. They actually had all the cars and all the drivers and all the people down in Australia, and 2 days before practice session begins, COVID smacks us all in the face, just like that. And they canceled it. So 2020's Australian Grand Prix went away. 2021's Australian Grand Prix went poof because Australia had effectively closed themselves off from the rest of the world.
A little side nugget I'll say here. You talking about that? All the boys that are in Long Beach running their Indy cars.
Speaking of closing themselves off from the world, California.
Yeah, they were in testing at Barber on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
It would be an hysterical sight watching all the people keeping an eye on the COVID protocols after they were down here walking around and driving around and testing around in the yellow cloud of death, in Alabama. It would be surprising to see if them people act hysterical. Huh, you got COVID? No, just pollen.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be crazy.
Well, in the meantime, they haven't just been sitting on their hands down at Albert Park. They've actually reworked the track in hopes of eliminating some of the just follow the leader racing that they've been experiencing recently. Using that photo, courtesy of highwaynewspro.com, this is now a 14-turn. It used to be a 16-turn. It's now a 14-turn course. Street course is Australian. This is kind of just a little bit of a quick background. This is an area where the Australian state government took this area from the city of Adelaide like a quarter of a century ago. They created this track that, despite the changes in Formula One cars over the years, really had not changed to adapt until now. This new layout, entirely repaved in a configuration that shortens the track by about 17 feet. Not all that considerate, but still, it's notable. 7 corners have been modified, 2 of the turns taking us out, and 14 turns end up being the total that we mentioned in the race rundown. One of the modified turns, turn 1, now wider in order to eliminate the notorious first lap crashes that have been part of the race over the past several years. Go through around, you find turn 6. It's also wider, expected to increase driver speed going through that area. The chicane that had been between turns 9 and 10 of the old course is gone, so it makes for a long straightaway, almost a mile long. So that's a high-speed DRS zone, drag reduction system for those of you that are new to Formula One. Turn 11 is wider, making ideally for another passing zone even after a DRS zone. All these changes had being a key word, meant that they might have had an unprecedented 4 DRS zones for the racers, but Formula One said, hold up on that, kids.
They took out a DRS zone per the release from the Formula One race director to all teams, all officials. Document 35 dated 9th April 2022 at 12:40 Australian time. Let's call it that.
Sure.
Note to teams, for safety reasons, DRS zones will be reduced to 3 for the remainder of the event. DRS detection 1 will be moved to before turn 9. DRS activation 1 will be after turn 10. DRS detection 2 will remain unchanged, with following activation zones will be renumbered accordingly. From the Formula One race director release.
So instead of getting 4 DRS zones, they drop it back down to 3. I think they had an opportunity that they're now missing. Be real honest with you. But
yeah, big opportunity missed, because that's clearly the one they took out is the high speed zone of the track.
That's a massive missed opportunity.
Between 8 and 9.
Massive missed opportunity, F1. That being said, so we just talked about this before the break. There are only 20 teams right now within Formula One. There's been talk about several groups that are interested in getting in. We'll have to see whether that happens or not. One of those is last week. And last week we had a shortened show because we had to get into Cup Series qualifying at Richmond, right? During the after show, we mentioned that there was an inside source within the Volkswagen organization that said that the company was going to have a meeting this week where they were going to announce that they were, his words, not ours, getting into Formula One, likely with 2 of their sub-brands, Audi and Porsche. Yes, Volkswagen owns both Audi and Porsche. That meeting did actually happen on Thursday of this past week. The company spokesperson said, after the fact, came onto the record and said that those 2 brands are talking with potential partners to do just that, get into Formula One. Now, VW as a whole has never been involved in Formula One, but has, for example, had a relationship with Red Bull in the past in the World Rally Championship Series. But at this time, it is unclear if that would continue if they got into Formula One in any way, shape, or form. Spokesperson said that the brands would be providing more information at a later date. Now, let's take you back to last week in case you missed the After the Show, which we do every week as we can on our YouTube feed, CRN Live. It was a Reuters report, which is European version of the Associated Press. The Reuters report said that Audi has actually readied a 500 million euro offer for McLaren. Now, as to whether that meant becoming a massive investor in the McLaren operation or buying the McLaren operation outright, we don't know. But here's the thing. Aston Martin could be interested if McLaren doesn't bite. And we talked about McLaren last week, and we're going to talk about them in a moment. Spokesperson said that Porsche likely would come in as an engine provider. They're aiming to work with Red Bull, but whether or not that happens, we don't know. As for McLaren, their CEO, Zach Brown, said that the team is, quote, definitely not for sale. Okay, so that side's nixed. And that they aren't actually looking for any equity partners. So maybe that nixes the other side. But Brown did leave the door slightly open, admitted that some quote-unquote very preliminary talks had occurred with the Volkswagen company.
Well.
Okay. Then there's Porsche. Likely, again, the spokesperson said only coming in as an engine provider means they probably actually wouldn't get into Formula One until the new engine regulations come into effect. That's 2025 as of now. Company's currently working on a public offering also of the Porsche Auto Group, separate from the Volkswagen deal. Read Ferrari being considered a separate group, even though they are technically owned by what is now Stellantis. All right. This ought to be interesting. I don't have any problem with this as far as the Porsche side is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Porsche's already said, no, we are not interested in worrying about getting into as a works team or a team owner. In other words, there's not going to be a Porsche team out there.
Right.
I don't really have a problem with that. You just want to be an engine provider, that's fine. Red Bull makes sense because Honda has basically said, once the new engine regulations comes out, Red Bull's got this thing on their own.
Yeah.
Well, we just tag it with a Porsche name. Porsche gives a little bit extra money to Red Bull, slap the Porsche logo on the engine covers, valve covers, whatever, and boom, you're ready to go. Seems fairly simple, right?
The old Porsche, Honda, Red Bull engine.
Yeah, really. So it seems fairly simple that might happen. This Audi situation seems a heck of a lot more complicated, if you will. Because, again, Aston Martin might be interested if McLaren backs out. Now, McLaren doesn't seem interested in any way, shape, or form. And we've talked about the fact that McLaren seems to be pretty happy with what they've got in the fact that they're running Formula One, they're running IndyCar, Aero McLaren SP, remember?
Right.
And they're talking about even expanding further and getting into Formula E. Mm-hmm. So McLaren doesn't seem to be worried about it at all. Then there's Aston Martin. You got to remember, this is the team that we had mentioned just a couple of years ago was Racing Point. But Racing Point had screwed things up so badly when it came to their ownership, they quickly went into I forget what the British use, but it went into lawsuit effectively. Contested ownership. Went to British courts. Here comes Canadian businessman Lawrence Stroll, father of driver Lance Stroll, who has more money apparently than he knows what to do with. He bought the team and then turned around and bought enough stock in Aston Martin to where he became the chairman of the board and said, okay, I'm the chairman of the board of Aston Martin. Guess what? The team name is now Aston Martin.
Funny how that works.
That team hasn't been around as Aston Martin for technically all that long. And now he's already thinking about becoming an Audi partner?
Lawrence. Stop throwing around your checkbook that's bigger than what you even know what to do with.
Well, in this case, he would actually benefit from it.
True.
Because 500 million euros, which we talked about last week, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 560 million American dollars.
Yeah.
If that doesn't buy out the operation, you better slap the Audi name all over that car. So now you get the Audi Aston Martin? Or the Aston Martin Audi? How does that work? I'm sorry, if I'm paying 500 million euros, my name better be first.
Well, let's see. The BWT, Cognizant, Aston Martin, Audi, Lawrence Stroll, JCB forklift car.
/ Racing Point.
So, yeah, / Racing Point / Sahara Force India. Give me a break.
Good grief.
Just go simple. Call it Team Stroll, Team Wolf, Team Bonotto, Team Horner. Let's just call it simple.
Team Steiner.
Team Steiner. Team Gunther.
Oh, my gosh.
Whatever.
Oh, wait. There's more. The saga of wannabe Formula One owner Michael Andretti. That's right. We don't know. Porsche not going to be a team themselves. Audi might be a team themselves, but it appears that they want to buy an already existing operation. Michael Andretti has already tried to buy an existing operation and has done what? He has made an application with the FIA, the governing body of Formula One, to own his own team, a potential 21st operation. We'll tell you the latest on that when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Final segment of today's show here, and we're talking a little bit of Formula One here, and there's the saga of the wannabe Formula One owner, Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti reportedly talked to Williams. Williams rebuffed him. According to what we heard, he might have actually talked to Haas F1. Didn't get anywhere with that either. So what did he do? He put in an application to begin his own brand new operation with the FIA, with the note that he did put away enough money that the FIA requires to even be considered, according to Mario Andretti, north of $250,000. All that being said, Andretti said this week that since he put in the application, he has heard squat, nothing from the FIA.
You're probably not going to hear something when you're in the height of your season.
That's true. He did add this, though, that they are working as though they will be approved at Andretti Autosport. Quote, while we're waiting, we're doing a lot of the work behind the scenes preparing for it because we have to start. Remember, this is 2022. He says that if he gets approved, he would like to actually start on the track 2024. So that gives him whatever's left of 2022 once he gets a green light, and then 2023, and that's it.
At the rate Michael Andretti goes, probably faster.
You might. He continued on, say, quote, so we are doing things hoping that we will get a shot at it. We have to start making some moves and pray that the FIA allows us to have a shot. I'm sorry, folks. If I'm the FIA, I'm looking at the Andretti name and I'm going, yeah, we want it.
Yep. But, you know, with all the...
with everything that they got going on right now, and this was one of those weird weeks. Remember, they went from the Middle East to Australia, and they had to call in some favors to help them get the cars shipped down under because, kind of like here in the United States, there was a shipping delay. They called in some favors, and they were able to expedite it. No word on whether it was DHL or a FedEx or UPS.
Last I checked, F1, when you're needing to move something really quick, a 747 cargo jet gets somewhere a whole lot quicker than a cargo ship.
It's true. It does. And then there's this side of it. Formula One and their growing popularity in the United States could affect NASCAR. Huh? Well, according to 2014 champion Kevin Harvick, that is a growing concern. How would Kevin Harvick know about it, you might ask? Well, his own son, Keelan, is a rising star in karting, right? He has dreams of following his famous dad into racing. But according to Kevin Harvick, Keelan is not targeting NASCAR. He's thinking of going to Formula One because Kevin Harvick noted that Keelan's favorite racer is not actually his dad, but Red Bull driver Max Verstappen.
That's a bluff. You know it's his dad, his favorite racer.
I'm just going by what Kevin Harvick said.
I mean, you know he's bluffing.
That being said, Kevin Harvick added this, and I can believe this 100%. Quote, I live at the go-kart track. None of those kids want to race Indy cars. They all want to race F1 cars. They all want to drive the Ferrari or the Red Bull. How do we make sure that all those kids whose dreams don't come true, how do we create them to be gentlemen racers and put them in sports car racing and attract them to the great ones over to NASCAR? In go-karts, the dream is not to race in NASCAR. It's not to race in IndyCar, but to race in Formula One.
That's where every single one of them starts is F1, is go-karts. They go to F1.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them.
If you think about, go back and watch, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. The two that stick out most notably, go back and watch the documentaries, which you can find, I think they're both on Netflix, on Michael Schumacher and on Ayrton Senna.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Schumacher's European-born, European-bred. Ayrton Senna, South American-born, South American-bred. Both of them end up becoming stars in karting in their respective countries and end up becoming continental figures. And at some point in time, Ayrton Senna realized, I've only can go so far here in South America. Where did he go? He went to Europe to continue his karting and continue on in his racing career, where he became eventually a Formula One champion.
Mm-hmm.
That's that same situation. And all of these kids, they're growing up with these streaming services. And what have we been talking about? The popularity of Netflix.
That would be Netflix.
Formula One, Drive to Survive.
Yep.
Which in 33 countries, by the way, it has become the most watched thing on Netflix over the past month. 33 countries, F1 Drive to Survive, the most watched thing on Netflix over the last month. I kind of see where Harvick's going. I'm with you. I don't necessarily believe that Keelan's favorite driver is Max Verstappen over his own dad. But at the same point in time, no, it wouldn't surprise me if Keelan is keen on the idea of going to Formula One. But what did we just talk about? Very limited number of cars. It's not an easy thing to break into.
Very.
Keep your eyes wide open. I want to jump back real quick to IndyCar.
Yeah.
Because we should have mentioned this and we didn't. Tomorrow, probably not going to see the return of Jimmy Johnson.
We have a morning update. Apparently, looking at the video, which I can't get to play right, looking at the comments on his video on the social media page, and looks like he may be cleared.
Ooh.
Possibly.
Now, why are we talking about Jimmy Johnson maybe not or maybe racing? Well, it seems he got himself into a bit of an accident. You got the details?
His hand, he had a right hand fracture, but has been cleared by the IndyCar medical team to participate in practice 2 this morning at Long Beach. He got into a little bit of a skirmish, overshot a corner, got into the tire barrier.
Ouch.
Did not let said steering wheel go. You're supposed to let the steering wheel go in IndyCar because the steering wheel in IndyCar is about that wide and about that long, where a cup steering wheel is round. It's only like this. It'll break your hand, kids.
Yeah.
If you don't let it go.
Plus, again, we call it open wheel for a reason. And if you sideswipe, for example, a tire barrier, guess what's going to hit first?
That would be your tire.
Your tire. And if you hit with the front tire, it jerks and boom. And say what you want about Danica Patrick. Trust me, she's got experience wrecking. I'll just leave it at that.
You just made the biggest, largest, oh my gosh, understatement of the century.
And most people didn't really recognize this when she was driving IndyCar cars. Most people probably didn't recognize it at all. But we noticed it with all the in-car cameras that we have in NASCAR, right? When she got into one of her very first wrecks ever when she was running what is now the Xfinity Series, what did we see Danica Patrick do?
She let the steering wheel go.
And crossed her hands across her chest just to kind of double check and make sure that her hands were off the steering wheel. She grabbed him, she hugged herself, basically. And all of a sudden, everybody started commenting on that. And she said it was something she learned in IndyCar, right?
Yeah.
And she reiterated it when she was in the booth for Fox Sports earlier this year, reiterating that exact same thing about putting her hands across her chest. Why? Because she learned it in IndyCar because the wheel gets jerked out of your hands. And ever since then, I've been kind of paying attention more to those drivers in the replays in IndyCar when they get into a wreck of any kind. What do? Take the hands off the wheel, put them across their chest. They hug themselves. Jimmy Johnson didn't do that. That's on Jimmy.
Heck, I even grew accustomed to doing it in dirt cars. If I got into an accident, whether it was my fault or someone else's fault, if you see you're getting in the wall, let the wheel go.
Yeah, just let it go. That way you don't get
even Brett Holmes can tell you that because we was at a race at Talladega one Saturday night.
Short track.
He got it. Yeah, short track. Not super speedway. Wish it was super speedway, but not the super speedway. Short track. He got into an incident. I can't remember if it was his fault or it was his fault or not his fault, but he didn't let the wheel go. And the right front made contact, and the right front made contact, and he had his wheel placed. He had his hand placed in the wheel to where it comes to the center, and you got the 3 points. Well, the wheel jerked, and it popped his thumb, and he injured his thumb.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Not good. So that's why, anyway. Let's take a quick look at Formula E real quick. Their race is now over. Who won?
Race is now over. Race number 1. That would be Mr. Mitch Evans.
Oh, congratulations to Mitch.
Mitch won. You had Robin Fry second, Stoffel Van Dorn third, John-Eric Verne fourth, Sam Bird was fifth, Antonio Felix da Costa sixth. The first of the Fighting Susie Wolves, Eduardo Matara, in seventh. Pascal Wehrlein eighth, Nick Cassidy in ninth, and Andre Lauderer rounding out the top 10 with his second Fighting Susie Wolf team member. Lucas deGrassi was in 11th.
There you go. He's mentioning them because we're about to talk about them a little bit more. We'll give you the rundown of tomorrow morning's race, the second race of the doubleheader weekend in Rome, and we'll give you the points rundown next weekend here on the show. But we noted on last week's After the Show, again, you can catch up on this on CRN Live on YouTube. 7 manufacturers are confirmed for next year's 9th season in Formula E, what they're terming the debut of the 3rd generation. One of the names we mentioned was Maserati, who recently announced that they were going to be entering the series next year. We did not mention in those 7 Rocket Venturi. Turns out they are going to be back next year. But they're not going to be the 8th. They're partnering with Maserati. Susie Wolf, who is the CEO and the managing partner over at Rocket Venturi Racing, said, quote, "Uniting with Maserati marks the start of a new chapter, represents the best possible outcome for our team following our successful partnership with Mercedes EQ." Remember, Mercedes is out at the end of this year. Being entrusted, she added, with the return of one of motorsport's most recognizable brands to international single-seater competition, underlines our success in recent seasons, which we have firmly established ourselves as a commercially viable, race-winning team that can seriously contend for championships, blah, 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 blah. She noted it. This will be Maserati's first time being involved in single-seat auto racing in 60-plus years.
It's crazy.
The Fighting Susie Wolfs. If that name sounds familiar, by the way, yes, she is married to Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff. There you go.
Yep.
Then there's the W Series, the accompanying W Series, the all-female racing series. The FIA equates to about Formula 3. They have their driver lineup for 2022's schedule set. Only one American makes the field, and she is 17-year-old Chloe Chambers.
Chloe.
Chambers, alongside Filipino driver Bianca Bustamante, are the youngest in the field. Bianca, obviously 17 as well. Your oldest driver comes from Finland, Emma Kimalainen, 32 years old. There are 8 race stops slated for the season in 2022, beginning with the first weekend in May. They're the undercard for the inaugural F1 race in Miami. Then they go to Spain, Britain, France, Hungary, Japan, before they then come back to North America, where they run at Circuit of the Americas, and then wrap up their season in Mexico City. Again, all of these races are on the undercard for the F1 races on those particular weekends. Only one American driver. And yes, Jamie Chadwick, who is the 2-time and only champion that the W Series has ever had, she's back.
I'm still putting my money on her until you can knock her off the podium. My money's on her.
Yeah, until you can beat the champion. Sorry, folks, you ain't the champion. 17-year-old Chloe Chambers. All I could find out on her, trying to be real honest with you, is that she's 17. I really couldn't find out much more of a background as to how she ended up getting this, but apparently she impressed during the tryout.
Right.
Good luck to you. Fly the American flag well in that 17-car field.
That's right.
All right, so tonight, Martinsville. Tomorrow, tonight, Martinsville, and then overnight, Australia in Formula 1, and tomorrow, Formula E and IndyCar, and we'll have all that for you coming up next week, including all of the racing action. And we hope to have in studio some people that are well known to us from Talladega Superspeedway, Russell Branham, and the track president, Brian Crichton. If we can make it work, we're hoping to have that next week. Talk a whole lot of Talladega right here on CRN.
Let's do it.
Sounds like a plan. Y'all have a great week. Don't forget about all the different places you can catch up with us on social media. And don't forget the website, crnradio.us. And make sure that if you haven't already, you subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube. And tell your friends, would you? We would appreciate it very, very much. Hope you enjoy the racing for the rest of the weekend. As I said, we'll bring you the recaps of all of it and all the news that happens during the week as well. I'm sure there will be plenty, with some tempers flaring probably in Martinsville tonight as well. We'll give you all of that when we come back next week. Y'all have a great week. Be safe. Hopefully the pollen doesn't get you too bad. We'll talk to you next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
See ya.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.